computer can handle it.
Oh my God, it's actually working. Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to State of the Stupid. We're doing a special live stream today to go react to the New York 16 Democrat primary debate featuring Perennial Buffoon Jamaal Bowman. I'm a little flustered. It's been a long day. Hey guys, it's Gene, and with me, what name are we using this week for you? I don't even know anymore. My partner in crime, the artist formerly known as Russ Gallo. I think it's Ross Galloway these days. I don't even know.
What's going on, Mean Gene? Good to see you again.
How you doing? How you doing? We're getting some people in the chat already. Eli saying hello from South Carolina. That's around your neck of the woods there, buddy.
Nice.
Someone you know? Maybe it's someone you know. I don't know.
I'm in my location and parts are unknown at this point. So
okay, I'm gonna still set the stream. I'm still trying to set the freaking stream up a little bit here. Let's put our names up on the screen. Why the hell not? There you go. That's us. And listen, it's been a minute since we've even talked. So how are things outside of the People's Republic of New York City? You escaped.
Listen, man, all is well. I was actually hesitant to do this because I don't like to remember the bad old days. And you're going to have me rehashing stupid New York politics that it's stressful for no reason.
While I hear that, you got to admit, you got to miss it a little bit, by the way, don't you? Just a little. Like the excitement of it all.
I got to be brutally honest, bro. I don't. I almost forgot who this guy was, actually. Isn't this the guy who pulled the fire alarm not too long ago?
Yeah, it's the guy that pulled the fire alarm. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. See, I'm like burying this stuff, bro. I could care less about these assholes. Oh, are we allowed to curse on this one?
Of course, we're allowed to curse. Nobody's gonna be watching this anyway. Just me, you, and Eli apparently is gonna be watching this right now. So listen, guys. Here's what we're gonna do. This is actually more of just a test to see if we can do live streams than anything else. But I thought it'd be a good excuse to see my buddy again that I haven't seen in a while, and there might be some other friends popping in, some people that Russ doesn't even know about here. But you know what? Fuck them. We're gonna get started already. This is. Let me put this on the stage here. See if I can do this. All right, there we go. Now I'm just gonna. By the way, I'm just gonna put myself on mute when I get this started because I want to see if I can hear this through. This is the first time I'm doing it through a browser, so I want to be able to hear it and make sure that we're doing it the right way. Eli, if you're in the chat there, and anybody else in the chat, let us know if you can hear it or not. It hasn't started yet, so we're gonna get started in a second here. So this is the News 12 New York debate from Westchester. We're going to watch Jamal Bowman versus George Latimer, who's the Westchester County executive. I think that's enough setting it up. Let's get this shit started, huh? I actually fast forwarded all the intros. We're going to their opening statements to begin with.
Agreed on the speaking order for this debate ahead of time. County Executive Latimer, it's time for your opening statement, sir.
Thank you very much, Tara. Thank you all for being here today and for those who are watching at home. I'm George Latimer, and I'm running for Congress in the 16th Congressional District.
I already feel Russ's comment already. Do you Russ, you can say it.
Well, I forgot.
The man has a wide view of the audience.
Why?
Listen, the man has a wide view of the audience. Why are we doing this? So, okay, you know what? I had to get it out of the way. I had to get it out of my system. Let's go ahead. Let's see if we can hear the debate here.
And I'm doing so because I believe this district needs a different focus in the way we send a person to Congress, to work on legislation, to work on funding of important initiatives that are a priority here in Westchester County, affordable housing, job growth, climate change, and protecting a woman's right to choose, and dealing with all the myriad of local issues that exist. 4 years ago, the incumbent today ran against a prior incumbent. And he said at that time that the prior incumbent was focused too much on international issues and that he was not focused enough on things back home and that he was not connected to the district. Well, we're here 4 years later for an accountability as to who best can represent the people of this district. I know Westchester County intimately, which is the largest portion of the district, and I'm working very hard to learn the Bronx portion of the district, nearby where I grew up in the south side of Mount Vernon. I hope that.
By the way, Russ, you can jump in anytime you want to. There's going to be, we don't have to stop it. We can talk over these people.
Because I've devoted my whole life to public service, to public
Vote for
policy,
me. I don't know
substance,
half of my district yet.
not just to style. And ultimately, it's your choice.
Well, just the Bronx part of it. Clearly, he doesn't travel to the Bronx.
Thank you so much.
Oh, here we
Thank you
go.
all for being here, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. I'm Congressman Jamal Bowman, and I've served in this role since January 3rd, 2021. 3 days later, MAGA Republicans attacked us at the Capitol.
That did not take long at all, did it? Jesus Christ. You know what? I wish I had a drink next to me. Every time he says MAGA, I'm going to take a drink or something. I don't, Jesus. It took him like 10 seconds into his speech, Russ.
How is J6 an issue in Yonkers?
Good question. Excellent question. I have no freaking clue.
Killing multiple people. I've been fighting MAGA Republicans ever since I've gotten to Congress, and I've been fighting their racism my entire life. I was raised by a single mom along with my 3 sisters in public housing during the crack cocaine epidemic. I was the first in my family to go to college, and I had the privilege of serving in education for 20 years before becoming the first Black man in U.S. history to hold this congressional seat. I come from the working class, and I have served the people of this district directly as a middle school principal for 10 years before I decided to run for Congress. Now I'm in Washington working with President Biden to pass historic legislation like the CHIPS and Science Act and to bring at least $1 billion to our district to serve the people of this district. But it's not about the $1 billion, and it's not even about the historic legislation.
Then why mention it? If it's not about the $1 billion and what you bring back, and if it's not about your legislation, why are you touting it? You freaking buffoon.
And gee,
is your glowing
the people,
personality?
And you can't let them get away with all the people killed on January 6th. Who was killed on January 6th? Last time I checked, it was one unarmed white woman, Air Force veteran that was killed by a rogue cop. That was the only person.
Right. Who else was? I'd love for. I hope they ask that question. I know they're not going to, but I hope they ask that question. We're not even a minute. What we have 2 minutes in? Jesus Christ!
And not for nothing, Gene,
it's about communities in our district that have been the least left behind.
Just on January 6th, this clown is actually guilty of what they've been charging all the January 6th defendants / political prisoners with. Obstructing an official proceeding, right? He actually did that.
And he was found, and he pled guilty to a misdemeanor. Absolutely.
A former principal of a high school. What would happen if you pulled a fire alarm in middle school or whatever he was?
Yeah, he said middle school, but some people have said high school. Yeah, exactly. What type of punishment would he have given to a student that pulled the fire alarm and interrupted the proceedings there? I wonder. And he gets a slap on the wrist. And, you know, the one thing that I've heard constantly about this is, well, George Santos was expelled for not even having been convicted of anything. This guy has been convicted. You know, what the hell? My answer to that is always good luck getting the Democrats to go along with the 2/3 majority needed to expel him. So it's kind of a futile effort. But the comparison,
Republicans are fucking clowns, bro. Why did they kick the Santos should have never been kicked out, right?
I disagree. I disagree.
You disagree because deep down you believe you're a good person. What about Menendez from Jersey? What about this guy Cuellar in Texas? They're both on trial, federal charges, and they're not being expelled.
Well, that's because the Democrats really gather around their own. That's what they end up doing.
We can't play those games anymore, Gene. That's it. We're not playing by we're good guys and they're bad guys. Fuck them.
Okay.
You know, I'm looking for revenge and vengeance. Like we're done with that.
The man's out for Galloway's out for blood. I hear that. I hear that frustration, but I still think that we can beat them without playing their games. But look, we're never going to get through this. We keep interrupting.
Action from local government and congressional government, which is why I ran in the first place. We got to deal with the issue of racial justice, inequality, voting rights, climate justice.
All issues clearly at the forefront of everybody's mind in Westchester County.
And pause that for a second, Gene.
Yeah.
From the lowest city councilman in Yonkers up to the president of the United States, his whole entire political chain of command are Democrats. So if there's institutional racism, Whose fucking fault is it?
It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't. You can't say institutional racism anymore with a straight face. You just can't say it.
And I'll one more point on that real quick. When in the history of mankind have brown, black, and yellow people fought their way into a country illegally if it was an institutionally racist country that hated them? They're coming here in waves illegally to a place that supposedly hates them and will be racist towards them. It's fucking nonsense.
Yeah, and Jamal Bowman is now part of that system. But all these people in the squad, they love to think of themselves as outside the system when they are the system now.
Yes, so a black legislator for the federal government is talking about institutional racism. Get the fuck out of here.
Listen, I've seen some clips of this debate already. He's going to mention his skin color. Don't you worry.
And all of the issues MAGA Republicans, who my opponent is working with, are trying to take away from us in Washington. This choice on June 25th is about the future of our country and our humanity versus a status quo politics that continues to leave too many behind. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congressman. County Executive Latimer. We're off and running. Let's go. Let's take some questions now, and we will begin with what has been the most prevailing issue in your race so far, the Israel-Hamas war. The conflict has opened a deep divide and led to bitter infighting within the Democratic Party, and now your primary is seen as somewhat of a bellwether of how the war could potentially factor into the general election this fall. The 16th Congressional District, home to one of the largest Jewish communities in America, and also a growing Arab community. And lately, we have seen intensity over this issue pouring out onto our local streets and especially our college campuses. Question for you both. Why do you each feel that you best represent the values of the majority of voters in this district? Mr. Latimer, you're up first.
I think it's important to understand that in this district, we have a diversity of population, which includes one of the highest concentration of Jewish residents. So this issue of Israel means a lot to people in the 16th district on a very personal, direct way. My sense is a reasonable sense of where we are in a very controversial environment in the Middle East that dates back over many years, not just over the last couple of years.
I can't stop looking at it, Russ. I'm going to hell. I can't stop looking at it. It's I don't know which way to. I want to meet him in the eye, but I don't know which one.
What happened?
I'm going to hell. I mean, you see it, right?
Oh my God! First of all, how does he not come right out of the box with a comment like, "I'm glad my opponent Jamal made it and didn't pull any fucking fire alarms on the way here"? Like, I would have workshop a joke and been ready to come in hot right in my opening remarks with that.
I would have too, but Latimer is very much a straight-laced. He's sort of as close to, I guess, a middle-of-the-road Democrat as you're going to get. As you see, he's playing it straight here. I'm going to let him finish his answer, but I can't.
1 second, Gene. You promised me that your chief Jewish correspondent would be here tonight. Is he gonna dial in?
Yak Attack, our friend Yak Attack. I don't know if he's gonna be here. I definitely didn't give him the link, so I'm guessing he's not coming. But I can certainly send him the link right now if you want. Hang on.
Oh man, let's get him in here, bro.
You know what? I'm gonna get the video playing again, and I'll send him the link. Give me a second.
Yeah, you got to give the people what they want. Bring them
absolutely.
In.
We've seen Israel created 75 years ago as a valid country. It has a right to exist, and it has a right to exist on defensible borders. It has a right to be able to grow and prosper as it has over this period of time. And I do believe in a two-state solution. I think there needs to be a country that is committed to peace if there's going to be a country alongside of it. And that peace has been broken many times in the past. 1948, the War of Independence, 1967, the Six-Day War, 1973, the Yom Kippur War, the Intifada in the year 2000. All of those things are examples of where the peace was broken. Now we come to a position where we want to look for peace going into the future. It takes both sides to be committed to peace. Hamas on October 7th went over that borderline, viciously murdered people, and created a horrible situation in which they took hostages. Any future for peace begins with the release of the hostages or the remains of the hostages. And from that point forward, humanitarian aid, a cessation of hostility makes sense. But it doesn't make sense if we're going to look at this as a one-sided issue, an anti-Israel approach, which the incumbent has taken over this period of time. And it matters in the district because it matters to people who live in this district.
Congressman Bowman, your response, please.
I've said since 2019, I believe in a two-state solution, and I believe in Israel's right to exist. I actually went to Israel way before October 7th to learn more about what's happening in Israel on the ground. I went to East Jerusalem. I went to the West Bank. I saw the Iron Dome. And probably the most moving experience I had when I was there is when I went to Yad Vashem and saw the Holocaust Museum. So I've been working since I've gotten in to learn as much about this issue as possible so we could work towards a two-state solution, not just give lip service to a two-state solution, which is what people have been doing for several decades. Regarding the current situation, I align myself with Senator Chuck Schumer. Benjamin Netanyahu should not be the leader of Israel at this time.
So is all he's going to do is just drop names and places? Is that his deal? I've been here, I've been there. Let me pick up all these names of places you went to that sound Jewish and all that. That sound Israeli. And then Netanyahu must go. So we got a Democrat congressman looking to interfere with the inner workings of an ally during war. Does that work, Russ?
Yeah, and I mean, they're all full of shit, right? So I think what's happening right now is the perfect prelude to a two-state solution.
Well, I'm just going to put the comment on the screen here.
Throw it up.
There you go.
So the first step to being an actual recognized state is the concept of fuck around and find out, right? And October 7th, if that was a government or a state that attacked Israel, they would have fucked around and found out. And that's exactly what's happening to Hamas. So go Israel, wipe these motherfuckers out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you're attacked as a nation, I think you have a right to defend yourself. And the only way to put down an enemy is to put them all the way down. And that's, unapologetically, go after them.
And Israel should take no advice from us. When was the last fucking war that the United States won? We don't win wars, right? We just fucking lost Afghanistan and Iraq. Libya was a shit show. We don't win wars. So why are we giving anyone advice? The only way you win wars is to break the enemy's will and ability to fight. And Israel is doing just that. Keep going, brothers.
All right, let's get back to it.
He is causing more harm to Israel than good. And what's happening in Gaza, it's been taken to court because it may come up as being proof of war crimes against the people of Gaza.
Let's talk about this for a second. By the way, for those of you who don't know, and I'm just going to bring a little knowledge because, I've done some research into this. When Israel is on a war footing, they have a coalition government. There is no one party in control. So in this coalition government, the approval for all these tactics has come from both sides of the aisle in Israel. It's not just Netanyahu in control here. The second thing is this sham thing about going to court. South Africa has brought Israel to the International Court of Justice, and I don't think Israel even recognizes that court, so whether they have jurisdiction or not is suspect. But the decision of that court is that we have to look back later when all this is said and done to see if Israel did anything bad. Israel goes out of their way to make sure that they have as minimal amount of casualties in civilian life as possible. And this line that keeps getting brought up is the typical international point of view that's pro-Hamas that we've seen from every other country in the UN that keeps bemoaning what's going on, yet, they see other atrocities in the world and turn a blind eye. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, so I said we haven't won a war in a long time. The last time we actually won a war, right, was World War II, where we indiscriminately bombed civilian targets. So, war, when it's a man wearing a uniform versus another man wearing a uniform, it's too easy to go to war nowadays. I don't even like the concept of war crimes.
Hold on. You got to look at this. There he is.
Yes.
Yak
Clear
attack.
that comment so we could see him.
Hey, can you back up a little bit? Can you back the hell up a little bit? You're a little personal space, man. How you doing?
Russ, when the hell did you grow a beard?
Just make sure you're wearing pants. That's all I'm asking.
I got that covered.
Oh, my goodness.
Listen, man, I'm about to join the IDF, bro. It's about to be on.
Yeah, you look like you'd be a rabbi in the IDF.
For those of you who don't know, this is our good friend Jacob Bog. We call him the Yak Attack. He is, I don't want to call you our Israeli correspondent, but you do have a news site now. Russ, he has a news website now. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah,
plug the site, Yak.
Yeah, so we just published a op-ed of a raging leftist defending Trump for having a fair trial, and I salute him for it. And we will give platforms to anyone who makes sense on any side of the aisle.
And the website name is
fromnews.com.
FRUM news.com. So, have you watched this debate?
Flash awesomeness.
It's definitely a great site. I like the way it looks, Jack. By the way, guys, I have this playing at 1.25 speed. Should I go to 1.5? You think?
Let's give it a shot. Let's see what it sounds like.
All right, we'll give it a shot at 1.5, and we'll let Bowman go about his position on Israel. Yak, feel free to jump in and talk over this guy as much as you want.
100,000 dead or injured, the majority women and children. We have to speak out about that, because going after Hamas in this way is not going to end the cycle of conflict that has been going on for 75 years. We can have a free Palestine and fight anti-Semitism, and that's what we need to do here, not just through rhetoric, but through education and connecting communities.
Congressman, let me ask you a quick follow-up before we head to some viewer questions. Do you believe, when we're talking next steps, you have stated that you are a vocal supporter of a two-state solution. Can there be a two-state solution in your mind as long as Hamas remains in control of any portion of Gaza?
No, Hamas needs to be condemned and immediately dealt with. No, they can't be, so we have to deal with them.
And on the flip side, Mr. Latimer, can there be a two-state solution if that is what you advocate, as long as Mr. Netanyahu remains in power?
I don't think it's a question of who's in power. I think the Israeli people need to see that they have a partner for peace, and they don't see a partner for peace right now. I think the role that President Biden plays in all of this is an honest broker. Israel knows that it needs the United States as an ally, and I have taken the position, I think it's the intelligent position for a legislator to take, a future legislator, is to work through your legislative bodies and try to influence the president in that fashion, not to have 435 secretaries of state all commenting on every little nuance of this. And if Joe Biden understands, as I know he does, and the people around him, that this is going to take negotiation between the Israeli community, between the Arab community, those that are willing to negotiate with us, that is the surest direction to peace. Statements that are made outside of that may not be helpful, and in fact, they may be counterproductive in the process.
Thank you, Mr. Latimer. Congressman, let's take some questions now from the rising tensions that we've especially seen on our local college campuses, which have led to canceled classes, commencements, hundreds of arrests. Our first question comes from Janet. She is a legal search consultant from Scarsdale, and she has a question on some of the language that's being used at the protests. Janet, thank you for joining us. What is your question, please?
Okay, so before we get to our question.
Okay, so a very prominent human rights organization estimates that, so like we hear all these numbers of how many dead people there are in Gaza, and they just estimated that whatever number the Ministry of Health in Gaza released, it's at least 50% lower than that. So in our reputable news media reports the casualty numbers like they're gospel, when they're really from a frickin' terrorist organization. I didn't call them a terrorist organization. United States, the European Union calls them terrorist organizations, and we're taking the official numbers as like Moses gave it to us on Sinai. What the hell? And so that should just off the top of the head. Come on, this is we're living in amateur Twilight Zone situation here, and there's no one other than FromNews.com that will give you the truth.
He's plugging like a pro, Russ. FromNews.com.
I learned from the best. I learned from the best.
Bard, I got a question for you, brother. So where's the Jewish community at as far as where they're headed this next election cycle, right? The last few cycles, they've leaned Democrat. What the fuck, bro? Look at this party. They don't support anything having to do with any sanity, let alone the right of Israel to exist.
So Haim Sabin, who's donated millions of dollars to the Democratic Party, just said that he's supporting Trump over Biden. Because
all right, but listen, man, that's like the Jewish version of a Kanye West. I'm talking about the people on the ground. What's going on in Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn, so where I live, in many areas in Brooklyn where there's a large ultra-Orthodox contingency, aka the real Jews, they voted for Trump twice, and they will vote for him a third time.
Yak just had a "you ain't black" moment live on Gene's show.
Yeah.
This is why I rarely go live.
At least I'm Jewish, so I can say it. The Biden ain't black. He don't get to tell you who's black or not.
This is why, guys, gals, everyone in between, this is why I don't go live that often. It's out of freaking control here. So let's get to, we're only getting to like the second question. Jesus Christ, people got to have lives here, man. I don't know if we're going to get through the whole thing, but we're going to get through enough of it to see the snark here. So here's the first question from. I'm going to bring this back just a little bit. I think. Here's the first question from an audience member. By the way, note the racial composition of the audience here.
Hundreds of arrests. Our first question comes from Janet. She is a legal search consultant from Scarsdale, and she has a question on.
Oh yeah, this looks like Bowman's crowd, doesn't it? Come on.
Oh, this is going to get
language that's being
spicy.
used at the protest. Janet, thank you for joining us. What is your question, please?
This is for both candidates. Do you consider the phrase "from the river to the sea" hate speech and/or advocating for the eradication of the state of Israel?
Congressman Bowman, let's get your take.
I know some do, others don't. I do not.
Whoa!
County Executive Latimer.
I think it is hate speech because I think it's clear that from the river to the sea
Thank
has
you.
meant specifically the eradication of the Jewish population from the land of Israel. Now, it may
What
be that there are
river
young
and
people
what
who are
city?
parroting the phrase because they hear it, they've seen it on the internet. You might ask them what river, what sea, and they can't answer that. But what's behind the marketing campaign that's being advanced is to try to delegitimize Israel, and that there be a free Palestine is a hopeful sign, but it has to accept the fact that there's an Israel there as well. And I don't believe that that speech, that the chanting free Palestine is meant to reach that point. I think it's meant to put the Israeli people in a negative light and ultimately to eradicate them from the state of Israel.
So let me ask you this, gentlemen, as it relates to these college campuses, your thoughts overall on the protest, and do you feel that our higher education leaders have acted effectively and appropriately in response? Mr. Latimer.
It's all over the ballpark because there have been protests at different colleges and different campuses. That there's a right for free speech is assured. If people want to protest what's happening over there, they have every right to be able to do that, and they have a right for free speech. And they have a right to free assembly. And in various different college campuses, it's the responsibility of the leadership of that college campus to determine what is an appropriate place that can be used and sufficient space to have this type of protest, assemble, and to speak, and to set the rules of it. College A may determine that you can go overnight. College B may not determine that. May determine you can't do that. You have to do it in a certain time frame. But the bottom line is those decisions get made, and it is important for the protesters to understand that they stay within those boundaries as fairness.
We have to move on. Congressman Bowman, your response, please.
If we didn't have free speech in this country and the right to peaceful assembly, we may still have enslaved Africans in our nation. We may still have Jim Crow. We still got to fight for women's rights, but we would have even less than we have right now.
And thank God for all the white people back 150 years ago that fought for those people and won equal rights. I think that's one thing that is forgotten a lot in all this rhetoric from Jamal Bowman.
Gene, I think you need to hit the books, bro. I could have sworn it was college students in 1865 setting up tents in Harvard University that freed the slaves. Did I get that wrong?
No, well, I mean, did you get the textbook from Harvard, though? That's the question. Did you sit in on one of Professor de Blasio's classes? Is that what that's from?
And by the way, they conveniently like to throw around the First Amendment, the left, right? The right to peaceably assemble and the freedom of speech. Most of these universities that are having these problems are either private universities or public universities that receive public funding, right? But you don't have a right to peaceably assemble on private property, right? So once the university
They
or
don't believe in private property.
You can't be there.
Well, Yak's saying they don't believe in private property, though, Russ. They believe that everything.
They say property is theft.
Wait, didn't you guys hear the student representative from the group that took over Hamilton Hall in Columbia? They reclaimed that building as if it was once theirs beforehand.
Yeah,
How
and some of the
hell does that?
Some of the more chunky ones went on a hunger strike, and it only lasted a few days, and then they gave up. Real sacrifice there for you guys.
Right, and by the way, as we've shown in videos
They
in the
skip
past on the
dessert.
channel, but we show this in the past on the channel. These are not, and Robert brought up this in the comments. They're not all students at these protests. Whenever you see one of those yellow and black prefab signs in these protests, that's a signal that there is a socialist organization behind it, especially in the People's Republic of New York City. Either it's the Answer Coalition, or it's actually, I believe there's one party that actually has the word socialism in it. They have their websites on the bottoms of their signs. They are not students at all, those people. They're paid agitators. That's what they are. And Diane actually said it right before I did. Paid agitators right there. That's what they are. And we're seeing that based upon the documentation from the NYPD and who's getting arrested.
So not only are they paid agitators, though, because they are, right? They're definitely organized. But it's the prelude to what's coming. It's another election cycle in which Donald Trump is the favored, and you will see this increase throughout the summer. This Israeli cause, I don't think, is the cause that's going to cause the riots in the street in the summer. But there'll be something, guaranteed.
Well, listen, the bright side of all these protests is that apparently Michael Rappaport is now considering voting for Donald Trump. That freaking buffoon. But Russ is absolutely right. This is the Black Lives Matter edition of 2024.
Yeah.
That's what's going to be going on here. Back to Bowman.
We wouldn't have LGBTQ rights in our country. Free speech, First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, is a bedrock of our democracy. I visited Columbia University. I went to the encampment. I met with students there so I could learn more about their perspective, their position, and what's happening there. I saw a library. I saw mental health supports. I saw students protesting peacefully. I also met with students who identify as pro-Israel students because I wanted to also hear their perspective and understand what
the mental health facilities. Jesus Christ. Everybody, we're raising a soft generation.
We have to open doors, build bridges, and bring communities together. We have to listen to people
firearms.
from multiple
Gene,
perspectives.
what would have happened
so
if
that we can
MAGA
get an
had
understanding
an
of a collective
encampment at a
understanding
college?
so that we can
What would happen?
Thank you.
Yeah, there would have been, if this would have been MAGA doing this, or people, pro-conservative people, or pro-Trump people, whatever you want to call them, I think the riots would have been stopped like in the first hour. There would have been riot cops everywhere, and it wouldn't have even been a riot at any point. That's what I think would have happened. But did you listen to Bowman's response? There was literally no solution offered whatsoever. It was just rhetoric. We need to come together and build bridges between communities. Well, how are you going to do that, Jamal Bowman?
Bard, by the way, I got a question for you, Bard. So, why don't Egypt let some of the Gazans come in as refugees during the hostilities there right now? Why are they not letting them in?
Oh, I know this one. Go ahead, Yak. Wait, Yak, you're muted. You're muted. Yak, you're muted. We don't hear you.
Bard, you're on mute.
Hit a button. Do something. We can't hear you. I don't have you muted on this end, but I can't hear you.
Maybe I'll do a voiceover for him.
Yeah, I'll do the voiceover.
He's calling them scoundrels.
Great question, Russ. My answer is that Egypt doesn't want to let them in because they did that in the past, and they brought crime and they tried to take over different parts of Egypt as well. That's
Yak, you're on mute, brother. Look at your phone.
Yak,
figure that out.
Hit the mute button. This is why we call him the Yak Attack.
Let's keep it moving, Gene. Hit that fucking play button. Yak,
how you doing? Keep it moving. Okay, find the mute button, Yak, or disconnect and come back.
Congressman, I know this is such an emotionally charged, important topic, and I promise both of you were going to revisit it a little bit later on in the debate. But now I want to move on to another front of mind, quality of life issues for a lot of voters in the 16th congressional district, public safety. It all goes hand in hand, right? Let's welcome now Lucas Perez. He's a 10th grader at Iona Prep, and he's here from Portchester with his mom, Lena. Lucas, what is your question for the
You can vote, by the way.
As a student, I often take the train into the city and use the subway to get around. Whether it's going to school, going to Yankee Stadium, or visiting friends and family, I often feel unsafe in the city and at the subway stations. What is your plan to address crime and to support police in your district so people like me don't have to feel unsafe?
So, Lucas, I want to thank you for that question on a topic that News 12 has been investigating now for quite some time, rising crime. We look at the data constantly, and I should point out that it does show that our elected officials and the police are making progress when it comes to fighting crime. The latest statistics of shootings are down 36% in New York in just the past 2 years, but yet we just heard it from Lucas. There's that discrepancy between the data and people's emotions, and the latest survey I saw from a nonpartisan group found that only 37% of New Yorkers feel safe in their neighborhoods, 37%. So how do we explain that? More importantly, how do we address that? Congressman Bowman, get us started here on
crime is down in New York City.
Thank you, Lucas, for that question. We need to take a public health approach to public safety. We take a public health approach to our overall governance. Now, what does that look like? We have to deal with the issue of poverty and abject poverty in our communities. Our communities have to
get vaccinated. It will reduce crime.
Result, we don't have the economic development and access and opportunity to the American dream because of redlining of our communities and poverty. We need to invest in mental health supports. We need to invest in substance abuse. We need to invest in education. We need to invest in workforce development.
How about prosecuting crime?
When we invest in these things, which we have done multiple times across the district, whether it's $700,000 to the YWCA in Yonkers, or another several $100,000 to the HOPE program in the Bronx. We've invested in programs for workforce development, mental health. Westchester Youth Shelter is another program we've invested in. So that's the approach, public health approach to public safety. My opponent, unfortunately, has defunded mental health over his time as county executive, and he doesn't see a public health approach as the right way to go.
Not one mention of increased funding for police, for creating greater recruiting classes for creating going out there and putting money into recruitment, putting money into, training. Nothing about prosecutors prosecuting crimes. Nothing about, you could talk about Alvin Bragg right now and his day one memo. None of that. But we need more mental health. And
mental health to stop you from being ghetto.
Can I say something? As someone who's struggled my entire life with mental health issues, to assume that if we had a robust mental health, going on, there'd be no crime is absolutely ludicrous and an insult for anyone, coping and struggling and trying to maintain their mental health. To blame this on a lack of mental health facilities is absolutely a garbage take.
Let me say two things on that, Yak. One, I've never noticed any mental health issues with you. And two, you've never stolen my fucking wallet, right? So you're doing okay, brother.
Although he did maybe dance on a table or two that I know of, but that's not necessarily.
It's a Jewish honored Jewish tradition to dance.
Is public lewdness? No, never mind.
County Executive Latimer, go ahead. What would you do to make our neighborhood safer?
My opponent doesn't know his facts. Lucas, the problem that you have is the same problem I had back in the mid-1970s. I worked in the Bronx at the time. I lived in Mount Vernon, and I had a graduate school program at NYU. And I rode the subway, the D train, from the Bronx down to Manhattan. And I took
Shout out to the
D train up to 241st Street. I had the same concerns you had that for all of the programs that we have to do, the public health elements and so forth. He said nothing in his comment about the police presence. He ignored the police presence. How can you ignore the police presence? I've seen in the Bronx, in the 47th precinct and the 45th precinct, additional police effort that works in harmony with the community and is able to represent a better way to keep people a sense of protection. That's why Co-op City is seen as one of the most safe sections of the Bronx, because there is a police working, but you need to fund the police. That's what I've done in Westchester County. We fully funded the police, and that is a factor in why violent crimes are down in Westchester County. But we have also, contrary to his false facts, we've also supported a host of different programs and services. We've been able to build Memorial Field back and the Sprain Ridge pools, public efforts that make people have recreational options instead of just hanging out on the street and potentially going in the best direction. Lucas, it's going to take a multifaceted approach, but you cannot have that approach. No, in a bill that would have funded local small police department, HR 6418. And when he voted no, he voted alongside Marjorie Taylor Greene in voting no on that bill. So there's your MAGA connection.
Before we get to Bowman's response, I think we know what we're doing here, Russ. We actually said everything that Latimer was saying. Do we need to send Latimer a change of registration card?
I can almost guarantee you Latimer is going to lose this primary. It's a guarantee.
Okay. Listen, can I put a little wager on this?
Yeah, I would like to put a wager on this.
All
the
right.
the left is insane, right? This guy talked about Israel having a right to. He said that river to the sea is a fucking hateful comment, and he's talking about funding the police. You cannot win a Democratic primary with those views, unless you're in West Virginia, possibly.
Well, this is Westchester, and look at the makeup of the crowd. It's mostly Westchester. It's not mostly the Bronx. I think he's got a shot. I think that. And Yak can maybe back me up on this or not. I think that the pro-Israel stance he's taken in this area will help him. I think he might get by. I think it's going to be close.
Yeah,
but I think that Latimer's got a shot.
Here's the thing. I actually have an aunt that lives in Westchester, and she, she's like fairly left-wing, but she is an adamant supporter of Latimer. And she even, bundled money for him. And, they're very activated in Westchester. The problem is that they increased a portion from the Bronx that can help Bowman keep his seat. It really is all about, you guys know this, you're now strangers to elections. It's whoever brings the numbers out. And, the election is in less than a month, and we'll see, whether this debate gives Latimer a bump, which I hope it does. But I don't know. Bowman is the incumbent, and he's got all these.
He's got a lot of money, but Latimer's no stranger to campaigning. He's won close races in Westchester So we'll see. In the meantime, I'm going to go look at some polls to see if I can pull up some numbers about how this race is going.
Look at the polls, play this thing, but you gotta understand the base vote of the Democratic primary, especially in New York and 100% in the Bronx, is black women. Black women are not voting for some white dude over Bowman, Jamal.
Okay, I'm going to go look up some polls.
Can I have a rebuttal to that?
Go ahead, 30 seconds, Congressman.
Absolutely. So the county executive just mentioned he had the same challenges and fears and issues in the 1970s as you have right now, even though we have dramatically increased police funding over the last several decades. So within that decade, those decades, that period of time, we still have the same challenges because all we've been doing is funding police. And police will tell you themselves. I've met with law enforcement, I've met with ATF, NYPD to understand what their work is like and what their needs are. They'll tell you they need more supports in these other areas because all they're doing is arrest and rearrest and rearrest. We have a recidivism problem in our country and mental health substance abuse.
I wonder why that is.
You have a DA
is a field. It's not investing in mental health.
Okay, we have to move on now from.
All right, so hang on a second here. I'm going to pause this and just give me one moment so I can figure this out here. So I found some poll numbers, and I want to put them up on the screen. Give me 1 second here. Let me see if I can do this. Stop screen share. I'm going to be talking while I do this, but it's okay. Okay, this is from 538. I don't know if it's hard for you guys to see, but the polling out of New York 16, there was a poll done March 26th to 30th by the Melman Group, and that's like a Democrat majority for Israel PAC. So take from it what you will. They have Latimer plus 17. And the Upswing Research Group, which was sponsored by Jamal Bowman, has Bowman plus 1. And that's for the time period of March 5th to the 10th. So this is all before what was going on college campuses. Latimer had a lead according to the Israel PAC sponsored poll, and Bowman had a slight lead according to his own poll early in March. So pretty interesting stuff there.
Ones?
Say again?
Any recent polls?
Well, that's what I found so far. I'm going to go back to the video, and we're going to put that back up and take it from there. Let me
they're not going to pull that congressional district too heavily. I'll still take the bet. I bet you Bowman wins.
Okay. All right, we got to talk about stakes now. Let me get the video back up. Yak is just look at Yak lounging. Can we just talk about the fair? What are you doing? Jesus Christ, man. Looking like you're on vacation while the rest of us are working.
This district. So we've got a viewer question now from Emmanuel Finlay. He immigrated to the Bronx from Sierra Leone back in 2000, and he tells us that finding affordable housing has been a struggle ever since. Emmanuel, go ahead.
This for both candidates. What will the candidates do to take care of Americans and legal residents living in New York? And will you be willing to champion and pass a law requiring the government to provide a detailed breakdown of how it spends our tax dollars?
George Latimer, we know that this is a problem that extends beyond Bronx borders to here in Westchester, where the average selling price of a home just surpassed $800,000. So let's have you detail your plans on this front.
Well, Emmanuel, we have a detailed breakdown of how we spend public money in Westchester County. It's called the county budget. It's online. I'm happy to walk through it with you so you can see these different things. If the issue is affordable housing, Westchester County under our administration has helped incentivize 3 times the amount of affordable housing that existed in the prior administration. And Westchester has done more for affordable housing than any suburban county outside of New York City. I don't have authority in the city of New York, but where I have had authority, we've expanded affordable housing. Don't take my word for it. Look at Mayfair projects over in Greenburgh. Look at the Sawpits Center in Portchester. Place after place after place where we've added affordable housing where it didn't exist before. We've also made buses free during the summertime here in Westchester County. That has still not yet come to New York City or other parts, but we went ahead and we did that. We've also suspended sales tax on home heating costs over the course of the prior winter to try to make it more affordable for people. So I think it's important to understand that under my leadership, we've done positive, substantive things, not just talk about things.
That's time. Thank you, Mr. Latimer. Congressman Bowman, what actions would you take on this front?
Didn't answer the question.
Right. We are living in a housing crisis across the country, and Westchester County embodies that crisis as much as anywhere else. People cannot afford to move here, to live here, to stay here. My opponent has been the county executive in control of a multi-billion-dollar budget. He could have done a lot more on this issue of affordable housing, and he's not, whether it's related to his governance, his budget, or leveraging the privilege of his position. He is the executive. He makes the decisions. Members of Congress have to work with 534 other people to get a law to the president that is 2/3 needed in the Senate. We wrote a letter to President Biden,
and that's why I pulled the fire alarm.
To do more, take executive action on affordable housing, and he did just that, capping rents with certain federally backed mortgages so they don't raise by more than 10% within a year. That's action we've taken directly.
I'd like the opportunity to
30 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you. The congressman has done a lot of letter writing and a lot of talking. We've actually produced affordable housing on the ground. When he said he could have done a lot more, excuse me. When he said we could have done a lot more, let me tell you what he could have done. He could have been inside the Region 3 offices of Housing and Urban Development. He could have been using his powers as congressman to lobby to get more Section 8 help for Yonkers and Mount Vernon.
We've done that.
He didn't do that. Excuse me.
We've done that.
Excuse me. Madam Moderator, would you please?
If we can speak one at a time.
No, this is my opportunity to speak.
Yes, please
I
use
would
your
like for
time.
him to wait.
Right. Just tell the truth. Don't lie.
Let's go. Gentlemen, I can assure you, no one can hear your positions if we're talking over one another.
As long as I have enough time. I'm not talking over him. He interrupted me during my reply. Expect that.
What a child! I didn't interrupt. He interrupted me. Just you guys remember that. You remember he interrupted me.
Let me just touch on this for a second.
Children.
Go
ahead.
Basic laws of economics, right? Supply and demand. Why is housing so expensive? Well, there's a few reasons before we get supply and demand. One is the interest rate. Two is inflation, right? Three, which is probably the bigger than those two, is we have somewhere between 20 and 30 million people here illegally. Those people live somewhere. If they were not here, we'd have 20 to 30 million more places for Americans and legal immigrants to live, which would drive prices down. Neither one of them said that, and that was part of his question from the audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's the thing. There's always the option of squad houses.
Well, I mean, squatting has been going on everywhere, right?
And as
Zach is actually squatting on East 47th Street right now, if I remember correctly.
5306 14th Avenue.
Whoa! No! We do not put addresses out on the air. We don't do that. Yak attack strikes again.
This is why you never invite me for dinner.
Well, that's why I don't give you my address. Listen, Russ, I know you gotta go. You got a long day tomorrow. Let's push through this. We got maybe 20 minutes more.
The rest of the debate. The bottom line is he's failed us because he's been too busy giving speeches about affordable housing instead of pushing to get actual results, actual dollars back. We produce actual results. He's had rhetoric.
Okay, can I rebut that, please?
Very quickly, because I got to get the bills paid and head to a commercial break. Go ahead, Congressman.
Okay. If you're African American in our district or Latino, you are more likely to live in abject poverty. You are more likely to not be able to afford housing in Westchester County. You have a shorter life expectancy. You have horrible health outcomes than everyone else. Housing is central. When you mentioned Co-op City isn't safe because of its law enforcement alone. It's safe because it has stable housing.
For Co-op City, have you?
Now who's interrupting who?
Oh, well,
that's stable housing. That's stable housing, right? We brought $100 million to Co-op City when we first represented it in the refinance.
Congressman, I apologize. I've got to go to commercial break. I think we've spent a lot of time on this. I got to take a quick break, and we'll have much more on what has clearly already become a very spirited first debate for the candidates squaring off in the 16th Congressional District covering Westchester and the Bronx right after this.
Hey, I'm going to say this. Nothing.
The 16th Democratic Congressional primary brought to you.
Say again?
Nothing's been more harmful to the black community than socialism. And that is why, when he says, a black person is more likely to live in abject poverty, I want all our listeners to Google the Harlem Renaissance, when black people were doing awesome in Harlem. And then FDR and his cronies and the following administrations with the Great Society absolutely crushed the black American dream.
Yes, and it happened by breaking up the nuclear family. Blacks were a part of the middle class during the 50s.
They were more
60s.
likely to be together than white people. They kids.
And now it's a fucking shit show. They grow up in poverty. The quickest way to be part of the middle class or upper middle class is to get married and not have kids out of wedlock.
I'm heading back into it. I can't add anything more than you guys already did.
By News 12, Optimum, and the Business Council of Westchester. We're going to move on now to some other critical issues, starting with immigration and border politics, which has become a very emotionally local issue. With the arrival of thousands of asylum seekers to New York, Westchester alone is currently housing roughly 350 migrants, but their arrival has not been without controversy. Let's take another question now from a viewer. Ron Madden joins us from Yonkers. Welcome, Ron. He's an employee at the New York Medical College. Go ahead.
Currently, the region's seen an uptick in crime that's been attributed to new arrivals at our southern border. What's your position on applying more scrutiny to those wishing to enter the United States? And would you supply more funding to border security?
Congressman Bowman, clearly this is a front of mind issue for a lot of voters in the 16th congressional district. Where do you stand?
So I've been to the border, and I met with border security when I went there. They have incredible resources to deal with the challenges of our immigration system. What is missing is more FEMA support and more humanitarian support and more judges and social workers and lawyers to help process those who are coming in seeking asylum, which is a legal process, by the way. Unfortunately, it was gutted by Donald Trump. And so that needs to be rebuilt once again. I also visited Guatemala and Honduras so I could get a deep understanding of the historical context as it relates to mass migration. It's not just Mexico. It's U.S. companies and other companies going into those communities, destroying the ecosystems there, which is leading to desperation, and that is why they are coming here. I think that conversation needs to be a part of this, so we can take a much more humanitarian approach as we support the recently arrived migrants. And I want to say, the ones who have been coming into Westchester, our office and my amazing district director, Ashley Torres, has been working in partnership with Pace University, Neighbors Link, Make the Road, and West Hab to support those recently arriving with their paperwork so they could get their court cases done on time and they could begin a pathway towards getting a social security number, green card, and hopefully citizenship.
And voter registration card in the Democratic
Party. And voter registration for the Democrats, exactly. But the dirty secret, really, Gene, and some of your New York cronies out there, I forgot which Democratic congresswoman in New York said this, that she let the cat out of the bag, and I've been saying this for over a decade. Yes, the long-term plan is to get these fuckers to vote for Democrats. The short-term plan is to get them counted in the census for the next apportionment so that New York stops bleeding congressional seats, right? That's what they want. They need people, because lots of people are moving away from New York. I don't know if you've noticed.
I've noticed a lot of good friends of mine have moved out of New York.
My brother's been living in Florida for 4 years.
Yeah, and they're being replaced. They have to replace you before that next census. So Trump has to do the right thing and have the biggest deportation in history when he gets in office before that next census.
I was told the Great Replacement Theory is a myth. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's alive and well.
Jesus. But again, he blames Trump. He offers no solution except people coming together in harmony, holding hands, and blah, 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 blah.
Biden has been president for 3.5 years.
Yeah. When are we going to stop blaming the last guy? I mean, come on.
County Executive Latimer, how do you secure the border?
Thank you, Ron. Well, I've been to Ardsley, and I've been to White Plains, and I've been to Yonkers, where some of these folks have come in. I've had a chance to talk with them and understand the need.
Oh, I love it. He's taking a shot at I've been to Israel, I've been to Colombia, I've been to the borderline. Meanwhile, he's been around his district. I love that.
Our county government has really been the second most important entity besides the local government. So credit Yonkers, White Plains, and Ardsley for the way they've handled those three placements. And the county has been right there to try to deal with it. You need an overhaul of our system. It involves requiring a bipartisan effort to do it. It has to be Republicans and Democrats in both houses. There was an initiative that started in that direction. Unfortunately, Donald Trump sent the word out, don't make any deals during a presidential election year. But it's not going to happen if it's imposed by one side or the other. It does include increased border security. I don't think you need a big, beautiful wall all across the Rio Grande River. I don't think that's a productive way to get better security.
Why not?
You do need to reform the asylum system. And I called for an asylum court to be established here in Westchester County's U.S. District Court. The incumbent made no call in addition to help me support that position. Also, but that would help us.
One at a time, please.
Sorry. That would help us be able to adjudicate cases here and move people through, because you can't have people living in a hotel room for 2 years. That's insane. Also, you have to have a path for people to be able to work in this country, and we need the immigrant workforce in a number of different industries. So it is a flexible program that has to be worked out. I think it requires the congressional element. President Biden has said that. He looks to see a workable process in Congress that would move us in the right direction. I would be supportive of that process, and I would participate in that process were I in the House of Representatives.
Can I provide a rebuttal?
Quickly.
Just real quick. When he mentioned the migrants coming into Westchester, notice he had no specifics about how his office has worked specifically
with
them.
What specifics did you have?
Multiple organizations that did specific work with the migrants. That's one. Two, at the border, when I spoke to CBP, they mentioned that most of the fentanyl being brought into the country is being brought from American citizens, not immigrants. That's a key point.
George Latimer, go ahead.
Westchester County Department of Health went to every single migrant that was placed in Westchester County, gave them full health update, make sure they were checked for all diseases, and then given vaccinations. That was the most substantive thing that was done for these, more so than whatever the congressman's staff was able to do.
Okay, Russ, I know that you've worked in the Guard with different drug task force and things like that. Is that true? I know that you have some knowledge about this drug trafficking. Is most fentanyl coming in because Americans are going across the border and bringing it back?
So that's absurd on its face, right? It defies logic. I don't have it in front of me. Clearly, most of the fentanyl in the country now is making its way to the United States with the precursor chemicals coming out of China, right? And then the second more important point is regardless of where it's coming from, right? The Democrats do this all the time. They set up these like straw man arguments. If we can't catch all rapists, then we shouldn't go after any of them. Let's say he's right and only 40% of the fentanyl is coming across the border from illegal immigrants. All right. Stop that fucking 40%, man. Right? Like, why would we say, well, the most of it's coming from Americans, so fuck it. We're just going to let it go? Like, it doesn't make sense what they're saying. Never. It never makes sense.
Can I, honest question. If someone came into your house with dirty shoes, it would be like, well, 90% of the dirt in this house are from my fellow family members, so I shouldn't give a shit if this foreigner is coming in with dirty shoes.
Oh,
like,
that
the hell is that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Yak. You're absolutely right. All right, let me get back to this. Russ, how much more time do you have with us? Because we can do this another time as well too. Or we
Let
can
it
just
roll, bro. I'm drinking Jack on the rocks, so we're good.
Damn it! Hang on. I gotta catch up now. God damn it!
Hold on.
I'm putting it in my People's Republic of New York City glass, which is available right now at shop.buffoonoftheweek.com. It's also available under the store tab on the channel here on YouTube. You can check out the store. There's a bunch of stuff like this. There's shirts, there's some posters, there's some stickers. Shop.buffoonoftheweek.com. Cheers, boys.
We worked with Neighbors Link and a host of other ones, Pace Justice Law School. So let's be clear. This county government has moved quickly and efficiently. And we were the only county government in this area to do those kinds of things.
Okay, we're going to pivot now to discuss abortion rights, gentlemen, which of course are under attack in certain states and at the federal.
Should I fast forward this part? Do we care?
No,
let me just hear a piece of it because the Democrats care so much about this. I'm so curious.
Okay.
Because New York banned abortion, right?
Couldn't be here today, but she's.
Yeah. By the way, People's Republic of New York City and People's Republic of New York State. I think abortion rights are pretty darn secure. I think what's been happening here, there was a blow here up in New York. I don't know if you heard about this. But I think they wanted to put something about a right to abortion in the state constitution, and I'm pretty sure a judge stopped that from being on the ballot. They were doing it as a ploy to pump turnout in New York.
I think we should do it, bro. Can we abort Governor Hochul? Is it too late?
That may be called murder nowadays. I don't know.
Shout out to my brother and
sister-in-law for you, Mr. County.
Commit murder, and they welcome the baby boy, Mazel Tov.
Oh, okay. I'll drink to that. Salute to the baby boy. Wonderful news.
She writes, George Latimer.
Simon. Shimmy.
Mazel tov. You, Simon. All right. No, I'm not making any jokes now.
I was going to say, you can't get any more stereotypical than that.
Candidates. We're seeing.
I was going to go shimmy, shimmy, y'all, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yay, but I don't know if that
was. Gene just had a nephew born named Giuseppe.
Basic human rights reversed in real time. Access to reproductive health care is being restricted and denied. Can you please speak to your commitment to reproductive rights and access to health care? George Latimer, a timely topic when we consider that a state judge literally just threw abortion rights off the ballot.
Oh, see? Listen, I'm going to go back 5 seconds. I want you to hear what she just said.
Topic when we consider that a state judge literally just threw abortion rights off the November ballot here in New York. How would you like to respond to?
I swear to God, I'm people. This is proof. I'm good at what I do. I know shit, okay? Everybody out there, listen to me. Damn it.
I think you're starting. The question really embeds in it the cheap political attack that's been made on me by my opponent and his backers. I've been a supporter of abortion rights through the course of my career. We even passed in Westchester County a clinic access law, which I signed into law. That is a concrete fact. My record as a state legislator proves the same thing. Now, here's the problem. When you talk about people's campaign donation, you try to make a correlation to it. You need to look at all the campaign donations. My opponent has taken money from various PACs that have also supported Republican candidates. Isn't he as much in jeopardy of doing their bidding as he accuses me of doing?
No.
Well, once again, you've interrupted my rebuttal. The bottom line is this. Look at the actions of the individual. My actions prove who I am for 35 years, and your actions prove that you have a lot of talk.
You're
not a lot
the number one recipient of AIPAC money in the country.
And why do you think
AIPAC is funded by...
He's attacking AIPAC, Yak.
It's okay. I don't care much for AIPAC. I'm more of a Zionist Organization of America kind of dude. They're way more based.
Fair enough.
Republicans like Paul Singer and Bernie Marcus who are attacking abortion rights across the country. This is my 90 seconds.
I would like my.
Oh, you could do your thing.
One at a time. I don't think it's productive if
Take
we
as much
speak
time
over
as you
each other.
want. I got you.
Well, thank you. I got you too. AIPAC supports Hakeem Jeffries, Greg Meng, Richie Torres, Adriano Espaillat, and most of the Congressional Black Caucus. So he would have you believe that AIPAC, which is in one particular policy area, support of Israel, which he does not support Israel, that's the basis for their support to me. My position on choice has been clear and consistent over a long period of time. He's striving mightily to create a record. And if he had a stronger record as congressman, he wouldn't have to attack me. He wouldn't have to mention my name. But the bottom line is he has a weak record as a congressman. That's why he's attacking me.
It is Grace Meng and Greg Meeks. Okay, that's who you meant to refer to. Number one. Number two, there's one candidate on this stage endorsed by Planned Parenthood, the #1 abortion rights organization in the country.
There's one candidate endorsed by Westchester Coalition for Legal Abortion. One candidate.
Do you think? When the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade,
Say it again?
You can count on Bowman to kill more babies than Latimer. That's why I'm proudly endorsed by the Eugenics Organization.
Democrats killing Democrats. Who gives a fuck?
Well, listen, I mean, they're trying to grow the voter base through illegal immigration, not through population. Because they know that...
By the way...
Listen, here's what they know. They know that the Republicans and conservative families are having more children per family than Democrats aren't, than liberals are. They're actually killing off their own people. We're talking about LGBTQ rights and transgenderism and abortion. They're killing off future Democrats. The time is on the conservative side because eventually they're going to be more born in this country than there are of the other side. That's why the illegal immigration issue is so important to them.
But what's even more delicious, Gene, is that the Hispanic immigrants lean to the right, even if they don't know it yet.
Oh,
but
actually,
these latest polls for Trump are showing almost a 50-50 split.
The coalition has grown. CNN actually we did a video on this week. We can check it out later. There are polls out there from the New York Times, of all places, that are showing that the Trump coalition has grown to include more non-white voters. It is now a split of about 78% white, 19% non-white. The non-white have gone up 6% from 2020. It's scaring the crap out of leftist media that a New York Times poll is showing that, and it's also showing Trump winning beyond the margin of error in 3 of the 6 battleground states and winning within the margin of error in another 2 out of the 3. He's up in 5 out of 6. If you put the ones in the margin of error in Trump's column, Trump is at 268 electoral votes in May. Right now, in May, he's 2 electoral votes away from winning the presidency if the election was happening this month.
Now, just please remember I said this, guys.
It's on video. Of course we're going to remember it. Come on.
So, yes, Trump, we keep saying, right? It's not the Republicans that are chipping away at these voter blocks. It's Trump. So 4 years from now, by the way, I'm supporting Trump in 2028, whether he wins or loses this next race. So Constitution be damned. We run him again. But when there's somebody else at the top of that ticket for the Republican Party, I don't think they could pull it off, right? Trump showed us what we can do in Wildwood, and Trump is going to go into the Bronx. He's talking about Madison Square Garden. He's the only one that can do it because the days of the Mitt Romney, George W. Bush, country club Republicans is fucking over. And I don't know who the next heir apparent is after Trump. I don't know who that person is. I still think it might be Ron DeSantis, but no one is Trump. No one.
Ramaswamy. Excuse me. I had a little something caught in my throat.
I love him too, but no one is Trump.
Oh, no one is Trump, but he's the closest thing to it right now. I'm going back to the video. We're going to
Ramaswamy needs a few indictments under his belt. Then I'll find
one or two. And then he can cry racism.
Advocated for the impeachment of Clarence Thomas and Supreme Court reform. Because we have to do everything in our power to fight back against the MAGA Republicans who support my candidate and who are trying to take our election.
By the way, just one thing. Why is every Democrat so upset about the turning of Roe v. Wade when it gives the power back to the states to decide what these things are? Shouldn't we be happy about that? I don't get... Don't we want less federal government in our lives telling us what to do and what we can and can't do?
Absolutely not. We need government to take care of us from cradle to grave, baby.
Yeah, especially with an issue like abortion. Like, even Ruth Bader Ginsburg agreed that Roe v. Wade was
an overreach.
We used to argue about this back in the day, Gene, like overturning precedent, right? Because that was absurd what they based it on, a right to privacy. Nowhere in the Constitution does the word privacy exist, when in fact it actually does say a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yet
someone watched the channel this week. Holy shit.
The left will fight to overturn that at every turn, right? And they don't want it to be a state's issue. They want it to be a federal issue, and they just want guns banned. But with abortion, which appears nowhere in the Constitution, was decided by the Supreme Court. It was never the law of the land, right? Gene, you're an attorney, I believe. Do the courts make law? No. So how is it ever the law of the land? It was a decision, a bad decision, it turns out, that was overturned.
Right, and if you wanted it to be the law of the land, then the legislature should have passed it and the president should have signed it.
And under which enumerated power could they have even passed it? Biden's saying they're going to pass Roe v. Wade into law. Out of which Article 1, Section 8 powers does the federal government have jurisdiction to make a law regarding abortion? No.
Oh, there is none, because the Constitution, well, the powers granted by the Constitution to the federal government do not include the powers to regulate health the way that the states do. The states reserve that power to themselves.
Correct.
So that's always been the argument there. And I think that's what the Supreme Court has done here, is restored the federalism on this issue.
I think in congressional debates, Gene, the first 10 minutes should just be a quiz, open quiz on the Constitution.
No. You know what? I actually like the idea you used to have about debates. And I've suggested this to people and they seem to agree with it. The way a person should moderate this debate, the way Tara Rosenberg here should be moderating this, Tara Rosenthal, I think it is, whatever her name is. The way she should be moderating this debate is the Russ Gallo way of doing this. You say, Israel, 2 minutes.
That's
and
it.
You each get 2 minutes. They talk about what they want because you'll get more insight on where their headspace is rather than answering a framed question from the moderator.
And I agree with that. I still think that's a great way to go. But now I'm thinking you need to open it up with whatever office they're running for. You need to quiz them on the basics, right? You want to be a congressman. Name some of the powers in Article 1, Section 8 that the federal government can legislate on. Go.
Also, I want to
name 3 of the first 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. Go and tell me what they mean.
And you know
they can't do it.
You know who used to do that, by the way? You know who used to do that? Newspapers. Whenever you had a newspaper looking to endorse someone, they would actually quiz candidates like that. And some of them have done it on video. One of the things that Nikki Haley got caught on during the campaign in the primary season this year was that a video of one of those newspaper interviews came out and she was saying something that she was saying the opposite of and was flip-flopping on for this cycle. I believe it had to do with the Confederate flag flying over South Carolina because it was part of their state flag. So newspapers used to do that, but newspapers are so in the bag now that they are agenda driven and they won't ever do that. I know that we all want to keep going here, but we got I'm going to do this at 1.5 speed and we got 20 minutes left in the video. So we're going to try to push through this.
Push through. We got to get Robert Colfax on the show one week.
Oh, you know what? He's dropping a lot of great comments, isn't he? Shout out, Robert. Shout out to you, my friend. Listen, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Shoot me an email and let's talk, pal.
I work in Washington on a consistent basis. I deal with these people. You don't have any idea
what
they are trying to do. I was there during the insurrection. So when we talk about reproductive justice, women's rights, racial justice, economic justice, I've been governing in that way with the people since I've gotten into Congress. I also want to say this. Everybody remember Robert F. Kennedy's speech after Dr. King was killed? What about Sojourner Truth's speech, Ain't I a Woman? My opponent continues to paint me as someone who is all rhetoric. Rhetoric creates movements and grassroots organizing that leads to American revolutions. That is what we need in this moment. We need rhetoric and results. We have both.
Go ahead, 30 seconds.
We have both.
We need results. We need a person who's committed to getting things done, not just rhetoric. My opponent uses his seat as a platform to give speeches. He puts himself in the same category as Dr. King and Sojourner Truth. He's a congressman representing the 16th district who spent more time giving speeches, and I might add, in Northern California, speaking in Michigan, all across the country, and he doesn't even know the name of the mayor of Rye Brook. He doesn't know the name of the mayor of Harrison or the name of the mayor of Irvington. That's the difference between being vocal and being local. And a local candidate who will do the things that this district needs for it and stand up for social justice at the same time.
You know what? You know who I know? I know the name of the young girl who was stabbed and killed in Mount Vernon a couple of years ago, where I showed up and worked with Mayor Sean Patterson Howard in the Youth Bureau to bring in $1 billion to start a program for at-risk girls. I know her name. And I know the names of the other kids in our district killed by senseless violence, which you don't think gun violence is a big issue in our district.
Ridiculous.
That's what you said.
That's ridiculous.
That's what you said.
That's
what he said. That's what he said. And
Gentlemen.
that shows you how he has neglected Yonkers and Mount Vernon and New Rochelle, and where the black and brown people live in poverty in this district and struggle with gun violence. He said it's not a major
And
issue.
the race card has been pulled. My God.
I see what you did there.
You mean this is I love dem on dem violence. They all show their true colors.
Oh,
Absolutely. I love dem on dem violence because then you see when they start eating their own.
Yeah, especially when it's a
Jamal
white
Bowman
dem.
is
I love when
great.
white dems go down for the count.
I mean, it's unbelievable how slimy this guy is, and he knows that he's sort of losing in this debate. I think he sees that Latimer is outperforming him a little bit. At least that's just my opinion about this. I don't see him offering solutions. I see Latimer being more locally driven. Bowman has gone full national, and he's lost touch with the people on the ground in his district, I think.
Gene, do you remember when you were a kid and like
No, I don't.
Maybe-
It was so long ago.
I tried.
maybe your parents, maybe in public school, they used to tell you things like, you know, the Democrats and the Republicans, they have differences of opinion and differences of the way to get to a solution, but at the end of the day, they both want what's best for America.
Yeah, it's one big family, right? Yeah.
But can you believe that now? Like,
No.
is there anything you've heard from any Democratic candidate ever that was actually good for America ever? Like, what has Bowman said?
Not in my
that's
adult
actually
life.
good for America.
Not in my adult life.
Today's Democrats, when they hear the word America, they have to take a shower afterwards. They're so
I agree.
disgusted and utter contempt for America.
You know,
They
and
want to-
Elon Musk posted a picture on X when he first took it over, and it was brilliant. Next time I'm on, I promise I'll do more show prep and maybe have some of this stuff available.
Oh, listen,
But he
I had
showed
zero
where-
show prep, so stop.
You know, like he said that he was in the middle his whole life, basically. Maybe left of center, actually, he said. And he showed a picture of how if the left moves real far to the left and he doesn't move, now it appears he's right of center, right? Or maybe even far right. But it's bullshit, right? There is no far right. What is the far right? Everyone was against late-term abortion not too long ago. Everyone, including Barack Obama, was against gay marriage. No one was ever for transgender fucking story hour at the public library. Only the left agrees with those things now. So who changed their position? Who went far and extreme? It's not the right. There's no such thing as a far right.
Yeah. And you know.
No, absolutely.
Bill
I
Maher-
completely agree.
And you know, far right. People compare the far right to the Nazis. Who were the Nazis? They were the
Far
National
left.
Socialists. They were far left.
Absolutely. I just want to. I'm looking for that comic right now so that people know what we're talking about. Give me 1 second here. I believe I have it. It's going to be uploading while we let the clip play. So let's get back to it.
Okay, we need to move on, but we will. We need.
I
Go
have
ahead.
to have
it. Say it.
Get it.
We'll send it to
A quick
everyone in
thought
the
out.
mass text after
A
this,
very quick
so you
thought.
can see when he said it.
But gentlemen, I
People
have to
forgotten.
say it is not productive if we're going to speak over one another. We've got a lot of important topics to tackle, and if the viewers
There
can't
it
hear
is.
your positions clearly, it's a waste of all of our time. So go ahead, very quickly,
Brilliant.
Mr. County
If he
Executive,
launches
because
an
I've got to
attack
get
on
to
me,
the
I
next
have to
question.
respond. I'm the person on the second day of the job who took the gun show out of the county center. That's a productive, active step. I voted in the state senate for the SAFE Act, which limited what could be sold in weaponry. So he's talking soup.
That's two things. You've been in office 35 years. You've been a county executive 7 years. The gun violence that happens in our district comes from guns that are trafficked into our district.
My
Not
turn.
at gun shows.
My turn. Do you see why he's an ineffective congressman?
Why?
He
Because I raised my
argues-
voice?
no, because he
The people
argues-
in here understand passion. They know that we need passion in this moment.
You need
You
to
want
be
to go
able
to Washington and play nice with Marjorie Taylor Greene?
No, you vote with her, so why shouldn't you play nice with her?
Come on now.
Here's the point, and I'd like to make it, Madam Moderator, without his interruption. When you work in a legislative body, you need to form coalitions with people. You need to have their respect. You need to talk to them as normal people. You can't preach and scream at them on the steps of the Capitol.
Okay.
He's ineffective as a
I've got to
congressman
rein this in,
for this
gentlemen.
very reason that you
We're
just
going to
said.
have a lot of disappointed viewers if I don't rein this in.
The
Let's take
angry
a
black
position
man.
down.
The
Let's not-
angry black man.
let's stay on
It's the
topic.
Southern strategy in the
Let's
north.
stay on topic.
You
We're
said
not going to
it.
be quiet about it. We're not going to be quiet
He
about it.
actually is an angry
Van
black
Dyke joins
man.
us now.
Let's be real.
Yeah, he's starring at one.
I mean,
called
He kind of
One
played
Angry-
that, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, calling a spade isn't fucking always wrong.
Oh no!
Quick question for you guys.
Whoa!
I'm picking a state at random. Please don't out anyone here. Let's pick a state, South Carolina. South Carolina recently passed permitless carry, where if you are legally allowed to buy a gun, which is almost everyone here, you are legally allowed to carry it without a permit. Is South Carolina the Wild Wild West and the fucking crime capital of the country?
I need to talk to somebody who actually lives down there with experience about this. I honestly don't know, but I'm going to guess.
Look it up. Feel free at your leisure. Look up crime rates and gun crimes. A place like South Carolina or Texas, places with open carry and no permits required, they're not the Wild Wild West. Ironically, it's the places like New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh,
I
Detroit.
understand, but like Times Square is a no gun zone.
Yes, they put up a sign, Bard, and I don't know why people are not following it. It's weird.
And this goes into another video we did this week talking about federal legislation that they want to create a carve-out for law enforcement and former law enforcement to be able to conceal carry across state lines and in national parks and things like that. Thomas Massey was speaking against that, saying that it doesn't go far enough and that all citizens should have that right, which led to that exchange with Jerry Nadler where he left out the phrase that the right of the people to keep and bear arms.
Yes, Nadler is a fucking buffoon. Yes, Nadler's a buffoon. And I've always said that in New York, right? Because police officers can carry on and off duty, and after they retire, they can still carry, right? So, but why? And they say, well, it's to protect their families. Okay, but what about my fucking family, dude? Right? Like, why can't I carry?
Yeah.
There's no two-tier system here, right? I've always been a fan of the police. Lately, I've been kind of like on the fuck the police bandwagon for various reasons.
Welcome aboard.
Listen, after COVID, when they were coming down and closing businesses, the New York City Sheriff's Department and throwing people out of restaurants, I have my beef with the NYPD too. So New York's getting what it deserves, and the NYPD is getting a little bit of what it deserves too, right? But at the end of the day, all people have a right to keep and bear arms. And the biggest irony, I don't want to use that word too often tonight, but the biggest irony is the places where people cannot keep and bear arms are places ruled by Democrats. Who lives in those places? Minorities. So you're telling me white dudes in Ohio and Texas and Oklahoma and South Carolina and North Carolina, they can keep and bear arms and protect themselves and their families. But if you're black or Hispanic and you live in New York or Illinois, you can't do it. What the fuck, man? Right. Who's the racist?
Moving on. I can't add any more to that.
The Democratic Party's been racist since...
She's a writer for Brian, has a question for us.
Hi, this question is for Representative Bowman. As a former...
Wait a minute. This is the woman that was sitting next to the guy with the yellow suit and the tie that already asked the question. Russ, you and I, we've run things like this where we know these are planted questions, right?
Of course. And they're reading off cards, right? I understand keeping notes. Sometimes I write down some notes, but to stand up and read your question off a card, you were pre-approved.
They're reading off their names from cards.
The question is, though, who approved them? Do you think that News 12 approved them? Do you think that the candidates got to pick and choose which ones they wanted?
I can tell who's not approving them. William P. O'Neill is not approving it.
Oh, shout out
no, they put plans. Those are all political plans. This looks like it's not a Bowman crowd, right?
Yeah, I guarantee you they're all politically connected to someone. That's for sure.
School principal, you know how important role models are in our society. But as a member of Congress, you pulled a fire alarm when there was no emergency. We try to teach our children to be thoughtful with their actions, to not overreact when they're frustrated, and to take responsibility for their mistakes. Shouldn't we expect the same from our members of Congress?
Of course. As soon as I pulled the fire alarm, I immediately said it was an accident, which it was. And I
lie.
Oh.
Lie.
I immediately
not take immediate responsibility. He immediately lied until the video came out. And by the way, I have to toot my own horn again. It's on video. I predicted this and how it happened before that video from the Sergeant at Arms came out, before the Capitol Police released that video. I said, look at the signs on the door. They're here in this picture, but they're gone here in the other still frame. What if he took down those signs? And that's exactly what he did. This wasn't an accident. He didn't take responsibility. It was only after the video came out that he took responsibility.
Latimer better hit him hard.
And still, all he got was a misdemeanor slap on the wrist, a German contemplating dismissal, an ACD, that you get when you're a first-time offender. This was so much more than that. And the context of this, guys, remember the context. They were voting on, I believe it was, the House was voting on pretty crucial legislation that the Democrats were looking over and needed more time to review, and then the fire alarm was pulled.
Yes, Democrat privilege.
Absolutely.
I immediately took responsibility for it right after the fact. See, talk about tactics. This is something that my opponent wants us to focus on instead of focusing on my record. 50 bills, amendments, and resolutions introduced in Congress. First time in history.
Yes, but how many passed? Just saying.
He passed a resolution condemning the white supremacist Great Replacement theory, which is anti-Semitic and racist.
So he passed a resolution. A resolution means absolutely nothing. It doesn't go up to the Senate. It doesn't go to the president. A resolution is just a statement of the House of Representatives. Whoop-de-damn-do, you passed a resolution. What substantive legislation have you passed?
You can pass.
And do any of you guys have this new thing? It's called the internet. White supremacy? Fucking find it and show me where it exists, bro. That's not the greatest threat. It's not even a threat.
And while you're looking that up, go to congress.gov, check out the bills that Jamal Bowman has introduced, and see where they've gotten. Fun fact, by the way, AOC, the darling of the squad that Jamal Bowman's a part of, has not passed one single piece of legislation that she has sponsored in her entire time in Congress. Not one. Not a single piece of legislation. This is the feckless Democrats that you're seeing right now. And I guarantee you, even if they got the majority in 2024 and beyond, they still wouldn't pass anything of substance.
You know something?
We work with President Biden to
passing bills
Act, which focuses on community wealth building and worker cooperatives. We even helped the county in applying for one of the grant programs as it relates to regional tech hubs, which the county is now involved in. As I mentioned, we brought in way over $1 billion, including the several billion as part of the American Rescue Plan when I was vice chair of education and labor as a freshman, to make sure that the education investments were focused on equity in our district. So let's focus on results versus the lies.
Thank you, Congressman. George Latimer, any response to
You want to focus on results. I was a freshman state senator in the minority, and I got 6 bills passed. He's gotten no bills passed. Let's go back to the fire alarm.
I just named 2 bills we got passed.
You didn't pass them. They weren't your bills. The bottom line is this. When he pulled the fire alarm, he said it was an accident. Did you see the video? The video shows him walking in with purpose, removing signage off the crash bar. Look at the video. Don't look at his act on the stage. He comes back on the scene, he turns directly to the fire alarm, he pulls it, and he walks off the stage. That's not an excuse. That's a lie. And if you lie about that, what else will he lie about? He'll lie about $1 billion. Hakeem Jeffries delivered $22 million to his district. He says he delivered $1 billion. That's a lie. This is what you have when you have a person who wants to be in the office in order to become important and special, as opposed to a person who comes in the office to do the job of a congressman, legislation and funding.
By the way, if I was such a horrible person, Hakeem Jeffries would not have endorsed me in this race, along with all of Democratic leadership, including Whip Clark and.
When you're a reliable vote and you don't have to do anything else but just nod along with your leader, of course they're going to endorse you because you're a reliable vote. He's not sure that Latimer is going to be a reliable vote.
Yeah, when you're the leader of your party in the House, your job is to keep incumbents reelected. That's your job. And that's what Hakeem Jeffries is doing. And, you know, come on. Bowman, you're a fool, you're a buffoon, you're a liar, anti-Semite, anti-white, anti-everything decent, and anti-black, too.
Oh, and a scoundrel.
And a scum!
I thought Latimer was about to drop an N-bomb, to be honest, right there.
Yeah, I don't think that he would have, but since you mentioned scoundrel, I have to do it. Schnooks, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels, available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other fine bookstores. It's an Amazon bestseller, an Amazon #1 new release. It's award-winning. It's pretty damn good, too, and it's inspired by these 2 people, among others, right here. So thank you guys for helping inspire the book. I know I've said that to you privately, but let's thank you publicly as well. Thank you so much. Just want to go through some of the chats here because I missed some of them, and we're going to get back to it. We have about, we're going at time and a half here. We have about 15 more minutes left in the debate. It's going to go a lot quicker than that, though.
impeach Aguilar.
Okay.
I still got some time for a rebuttal.
Go ahead.
So I don't know why it's so easy to trick you. First, they put out a still image to weaponize it. Then they put out a second video, but they never put out the other video of me running to vote, which would have been proof that I freaking did it by accident. I was trying to go vote.
He's losing it. He's absolutely losing it. The video that was released showed you intentionally removing the signs, the door not opening, you moving the signs, hitting the fire alarm, and walking away. Come on. Enough's enough. That's why you pled to a misdemeanor. Forget about what your lying eyes are seeing, folks. He pled guilty to a misdemeanor in connection with this. He admitted he committed a crime. Now, you may not like the crime that he committed and that he didn't get punished enough, but he still admitted to committing the crime.
He obstructed an
But that's
official
fine.
proceeding.
You can say whatever you want. It's all good. Let's keep going.
Dude,
Yeah, you saw the video. You saw. I understand. I appreciate it. Just like I saw on Instagram that you said gun violence is not an issue in Westchester County.
I never said such a thing.
Okay, all right.
All right, we're going off topic now, and I do need to pivot to another crucial issue. It's a bread and butter issue in all of our districts' infrastructure. Our News 12 investigative team has spent the past 2 years digging into data for our Failing Foundations project, and the big takeaway was that our infrastructure is aging, crumbling, it's in desperate need of repair, and it's beyond just our roads and bridges. We're talking our electric grid, our cyber infrastructure, even our water systems are some of the oldest in the United States. Let's take a question now to tackle this critical issue. A retiree from Yonkers, Maria Rondonza, joins us now. Maria, what is your question for the candidates?
Okay, both of you will be able to answer this because both of you are involved in this, because both of you have given funds to Westchester and our thing. Can we, the citizens of this area, get a more transparent breakdown of the programs getting funds? I'm not seeing any money being spent to help taxpayers directly. Infrastructure as one. Roads are terrible. Water filtration systems, flooding caused by development that doesn't acknowledge flood risk. Where's the emphasis on my area?
George Latimer, how to tackle this regional issue that impacts us so much here at home. At News 12, I've lost track. She mentioned flooding. How many flooding events and extreme weather events we've covered in recent years? What is your plans to make us more
Let's try to narrow this down because there's so many different issues that fall under infrastructure. Westchester County has a budget, Maria, and you're welcome to see it. We're happy to meet with you and go through in detail. What are the projects that we have? $400 million this year, similar amounts the last number of years. We have fixed so much infrastructure, Sprainbridge pools, Memorial Field, North and South County trailways, improvements in our sewer treatment plants, improvement in a host of different things that we in Westchester County have responsibility for. You want to see roads that are being improved? Mamaroneck Avenue from the southern part of White Plains. Mayor Tom Roach is here from the southern part of White Plains, all the way down to Mamaroneck Village, a project that the county tackled 20 years in the making. We come in, we got it done. Theodore Friend, Midland Avenue, and we have projects coming up in this year, bridge on Route 22. All of those projects represent our hard commitment to infrastructure, and we don't vote no and then claim that we actually support infrastructure.
I'm being told
this is in his wheelhouse. You can tell, being a local elected official, he knows about local issues like this and what to tout and what to take credit for, Russ. We've seen this before. I feel like candidates that focus local, that end up in Congress, end up like Jamal Bowman. They get caught up in the national spotlight and they lose track of what goes on at home. And what ends up happening is they end up getting unseated by a guy like this. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but I'm a little disappointed in the electorate itself. It just shows you and the Republican Party is just as guilty as the Democratic Party on this. Like, that voter obviously is interested in a primary, so she votes all the time. And she doesn't understand
she's a civic association member. I guarantee you, she's involved in some civic, and that's a feisty Italian woman right there.
No, and I agree, but she doesn't understand that the federal government really should have nothing to do with your local life. Like, I get it, all politics are local, right? But I don't want my congressman worried about a pothole. That's not his job, right?
No, and I hear you, but I think that the fact that they bring back the bacon for these localities to do the money, they should account for where that money is. Yak, we're losing Yak.
I get it.
You see, we're losing him. He's fading. He's fading fast.
Gee, I don't know if you caught it before, man. I was trying to plug the old show.
Oh, hey! Brooklyn GOP Radio, live from the People's Republic of New York City. Man, those were the times. I love that thing, man. Since we're all right, now you're gonna make me do this. You have to fucking make me do this, right? See, I was planning this for a surprise, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. Let me just do this so you can kind of see that. And then let me do this.
Oh!
What do you think, Russ?
Oh, I love it.
Do we want to
bring that back?
Do you want to bring it back? Yes or no?
I'm in.
All right,
we're bringing free time nowadays.
We're gonna bring it back. We're gonna bring it back. It's coming back. You've heard it here first, guys. There's gonna be a lot of Russ. I gotta tell you, I've been getting people asking me if it was coming back.
We gotta get a CPAC coming back.
They've been demanding coming back. So
does Lagan count as behind enemy lines?
I think that everywhere is behind enemy lines because it's not about where you are; it's about what's going on.
We're on the internet, behind enemy lines.
Indeed. All right, we're almost done here. Let's keep going.
Time is up. You have 1 minute in response, Congressman.
So the Yonkers Sewage Treatment Plant, the Lake Isle Dam, new economic development in Mamaroneck, sewage in Rise, sewage in Mount Vernon. We have brought in resources to invest in all of these areas and many, many more. But infrastructure is not just about hard infrastructure without climate justice. We need climate justice. We are living in a climate emergency. The storms are more severe. They're more consistent. That's why we have the flooding that we have. We worked with Senator Schumer to bring in $88 million to Mamaroneck after Hurricane Ida. We were together there for a press conference. And after the press conference, we walked down Mamaroneck Avenue. My opponent was accosted by people because he had been in office for a number of years and didn't do much on the issue. He left. I continued to walk down Mamaroneck Avenue. From the laundry room there all the way to Duck Donuts, which is one of my favorite places, to have a conversation about the damage and to figure out how we can support them in rebuilding again.
We'll get to you after the break, County Executive Latimer. I apologize, but we've got to take a quick break. We'll have much more action from the debate floor.
We got to just touch on
time
this.
here at the first debate for the Democratic candidates of the 16th congressional primary.
Go ahead.
Real quick, because the Democrats bring this up
Touch
all
on
the
whatever
time.
you want to touch, Russ.
The left brings this up all the time, and it makes no fucking sense. He said storms are more severe. By what metric is he measuring that by? I'm curious. What do you think, Gene? Like, what? How can they tell you today a storm was more severe than a storm 500 years ago? By what metric?
They can't.
They can't, right? The only metric possible is by the financial damage that it might cause, right? So if a lot of people didn't live in Westchester 500 years ago, 400 years ago, 300 years ago, yeah, maybe a storm is more severe today, but it's the same fucking storm. Or a less severe storm. It just caused more property damage because there's more fucking people living there now. There is no metric. Do you believe they can tell you what the temperature or wind velocity was 200 years ago? Get the fuck out of here. There's no way, bro.
They can't even tell me what the weather's going to be in 3 hours from now.
Yes, it's insanity. And people believe it. Trust the science. What science? What fucking voodoo doll or crystal ball are you using to tell me how fucking strong the wind was in 1890?
There you go. We're almost done, guys. I swear to God, we're almost done.
Another point of that.
Last left off infrastructure. County Executive Latimer, you wanted to go ahead, sir.
Yes, in the Mamaroneck flood situation, Westchester County has put $17 million in our budget, and we have legislation prepared to pass the legislation to put that $17 million towards actual project work. The state has done the same thing with their $27 million. The congressman takes great pride for having reauthorized $88 million, which was done originally by Elliot Engel 7-8 years ago. That money is not forthcoming. I don't know that we'll see it. So the state and the county are moving forward. The people that I talk to in Mamaroneck know me. We've worked together on this project, and they have confidence that if I say we're going to do this, we're going to do it. They don't have any confidence in promises that money's been delivered when it actually hasn't shown up.
Okay, so we're going to dive right in now to another crucial issue impacting our local neighborhoods, rising hate. News 12 has been tracking the data through our ongoing Hate at Home project, and it shows that bias and hate is surging against all religious and racial groups right now, but especially when it comes to anti-Semitism, which the FBI claims has reached now historic levels. Many students are
Yak, we're in your wheelhouse. Get ready.
Students that include a 13-year-old from right here in Westchester County. Henry is joining us now with his dad. Thank you for being here. And go ahead with your question for the candidates, Henry.
When I read the news, I see so many stories about the spike in anti-Semitism and other kinds of hate. As a student in the district you are competing to represent, I'm curious about how you will handle these issues and safety in our schools.
Congressman Bowman, you take this one first.
So, Henry, I'm a lifelong educator. I've dedicated my life to education and children, and whether I'm in Congress or doing something else, I will continue to work to keep children safe and to make sure we have quality education opportunities for our kids. The reason why hate continues to be persistent is because of historic miseducation that continues now in our schools and in our communities. We have been separated and segregated for so long and miseducated for so long. People.
I'm sorry, I just need to pause this for a second. Of the two candidates on the stage, which one has been talking more about separation than the other?
Well, the Democrats are all about segregation, right? And
no, I know, but which one has been talking about it more? Is it Bowman or Latimer?
It's definitely Bowman. But with all due respect to that last question, I thought that kid was going to be talking about hate against gays, but that's just me.
Wow. Okay, let's not pick on kids.
American history, for that matter. One of the things I did in October, after the horrible terrorist attacks on October 7th, was hold a healing breakfast so I could hear from my Jewish constituents, so I could really understand their concerns, which would help me govern more aligned with what those concerns are. I also sponsored a trip for students from the Bronx to come down to Washington and visit the Holocaust Museum in Washington. And in the notes that I got back from students, many of them said that was the best part of their trip. So education is the key. I have the safest schools in the Bronx. As an educator.
Go ahead, finish.
Do you got a warm feeling inside that he's looking out for you? He just said he cares
I
about
locks and cream cheese at that healing breakfast, and my tummy is all healed up.
Yeah. Listen though, he said he cares about Jewish hate, but from the river to the sea
is okay.
Not a hateful comment.
Okay, let's see if we predict this. Do you think Latimer will hit that note in his rebuttal here?
He should, because that's a freebie.
Okay, if he does, I'm calling you a genius. I know you're a genius, but I'm going to call you that on air, on camera. Here, let's see.
Yeah, I had one of the safest schools in the Bronx when I was an educator, and I want to bring that same vision and energy for the kids in New York 16.
1 minute, George Latimer, please explain for us your plan to tackle rising hate.
Henry, what we did for schools is we brought together school superintendents and various individuals after the incident that happened in Roosevelt. There was a high school with LaFell School. There was a lot of debate back and forth about who said what. We brought them all together. And we went over certain efforts to try to help coordinate things before we went into the county center for Section 1 basketball. And we got a positive result out of that experience. Our Human Rights Commission, which I was part of creating 25 years ago, we've reactivated Ken Jenkins and myself in this term of office. And Tejas Sanchala has reached out into every corner of this county to deal with anti-Semitism, to deal with anti-Asian hatred, Islamophobia, racism, and every other ism that exists out there. And I've made a point, not just of dealing with one or two communities that are subject to the hate, but all of the communities that are subject to the hate. And what it comes down to is the way we speak and our rhetoric. If we're going to give long speeches about what's happened 100 years ago, we're not dealing with what's happening
Mr. Latimer,
today.
I have to move on because I promised that we'd get back to some more questions on the Israel-Hamas war, and we have some speakers that took the time to show up today. They have questions for both of you. 2 questions back to back. We're going to do this lightning round style now. 30 seconds to answer each of these questions. And let me welcome Asia Quattlebaum. Where is she? Asia's with us. Welcome, Asia. Asia's joining us from Co-op City, which is new turf to this district following the redistricting process. Asia, go ahead with your questions for the candidates.
As a Tufts University student who has participated in peaceful protests and visited encampments of other universities, the plight of Palestinian families affected by the ongoing conflict hits close to home. How will you ensure that international aid doesn't support governments or regimes involved in human rights violations?
County Executive Latimer, 30 seconds, go ahead.
I think it's important for American policy to look at all human rights records of the various countries out there. And while there are concerns about Israel vis-a-vis Palestine, there's also concerns about Iran, there's concerns about Syria and Lebanon and Yemen. And they have some of the worst human rights conditions across the board. So we need to have a balanced view of what is there and how we condition the way we interact on the basis of a host of different issues. The Palestinian issue is before us today, but there is abuse happening in Sudan. There's abuse happening in China, all across this globe. We have to be universal in the way we approach those human rights concerns.
All right, Congressman, 30 seconds.
Absolutely have to be universal as we deal with human rights, but the protests on college campuses are specifically related to U.S. tax dollars and weapons going to Israel as they bomb the civilians in Gaza. And so we called for a permanent ceasefire very early on, 60.
Yeah, we need to talk about this call for a ceasefire real quick. I love how every member of the squad went down the line and they each had the same sort of speech. It was, they hate the loss of life, but this is the U.S.'s fault. There should be an immediate ceasefire. It's all the same rhetoric, and no one condemned Hamas. We have Rashida Tlaib, who is an ally of Jamal Bowman, who is basically spewing Hamas propaganda that's actually going against U.S. intelligence. And she ended up getting censured for that. We have Ilhan Omar. These are all Jamal Bowman's running buddies that are doing this. And he's mirroring the same thing. Immediate ceasefire. Let's forget about the loss of life and the human rights violations by Hamas, who, by the way, were elected in Palestine, in Gaza. Let's forget about them. And let's talk about what Israel is doing. I think it's complete and utter bullshit. And honestly, I used to ask myself, can you separate out Hamas from Palestinian people, like civilians? And the answer I've gotten from many people who have served in the IDF, because I work in Five Towns area now, I know many people who travel between Israel and New York now. The answer they always give is no, you cannot separate them because they actually support what Hamas is doing and what the other fringe organizations that are in the area are doing. So, sorry, I don't believe this whole ceasefire nonsense when hostages are being held and when the initial human rights violation was from Gaza. Yeah, am I wrong? Tell me where I lied.
listen, when we were kids, you were like, time out, time in. You start a war, there's no time out, time in. You start the war, well, you don't get to this, you're in no position to decide how Israel retaliates when you committed the biggest slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust, and then you have the audacity to scream for a ceasefire. How about no? How about, Israel has killed 20 out of 24 Hamas battalions, and they're about to finish off the last remaining 4 that are hiding in Rafah. I say finish the job. You don't put out 80% of a fire, you put out the whole fire.
Very well put, Yak. Genocide, if Israel wanted to
he lives for your compliments.
Listen, man, if Israel wanted to commit genocide, it would have been done already, right? Like, clearly they don't want to do it. They have the ability to wipe those motherfuckers off the planet, and they're not doing that. Biden's fucked. The Democrats are kind of fucked. They have positioned themselves to have to support Hamas, right? When I was a kid, it was the PLO, the Palestinian whatever.
Yeah, the Palestinian Liberation Front, I think it was, right?
Organization or whatever the fuck they were.
Right.
Or the
Yasser
PLA,
Arafat,
whatever they are now.
Yasser Arafat, yeah.
Who is in charge of Gaza, right? Like
right.
You said it. It's Hamas, a terrorist group. They voted them in. Fuck around and find out, bro. That's it. There is no... How can you have a two-state solution when you have an elected government that is Hamas? Like, you can't.
I'll tell you what. Think of it this way. If the leadership in Gaza, Hamas, whoever you want to call them, were to say, we surrender, what would Israel do? Would they stop shooting and firing rockets?
If they gave back the hostages, probably.
Now, if Israel said, you know what? We surrender, we stop fighting. Would Hamas cease fire, or would they keep on firing until they kill everybody?
Oh, can I answer that question?
Sure.
So 2 days after October 7, the head of the guy, not the head of Hamas, but the guy in charge of Gaza, with the blessing of Hamas hiding in Qatar, they said if we ever get a chance to recommit October 7, we do it again and again and again. So that's not
1,000 times over, he said.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And quick history lesson for everyone. 100 years ago, there was no Palestine and there was no Israel, right? So who stole whose fucking land? I don't know. If I look in the Bible, I can go back like 2,000 years ago and there wasn't Israel, right? I don't remember seeing a Palestine.
Exactly.
Palestine is a name that the Romans, sorry Italians, but when they sacked Jerusalem in order to dehumanize the Jewish people, they called it Palestina, which was an ancient. And by the way, the word Palestina means invader. It was the
Yak, you're actually incorrect. It's actually just a name for a star, very little tiny star-shaped pasta. You're mispronouncing it. It's actually called pastina. It's very good when you're sick and at home from school. It's a little butter, a little salt, some grain. Perfect. Ronzoni, why did you cancel it? That's what I want to know. All right. I think we're getting close to final statements here.
59% of the district supports a permanent ceasefire. The majority of Americans support a permanent ceasefire. My opponent is standing with Benjamin Netanyahu and continuing the onslaught of innocent civilians in Gaza.
Okay, let me get to our last viewer question. Scott Dubin is here.
He's accused me of something I have to respond to.
Go
I
ahead,
don't stand with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Did you see Bowman? Hang on. Watch Bowman.
With Benjamin Netanyahu and continuing the onslaught of innocent civilians in Gaza.
Okay, let me get to our last viewer
Watch
question.
Bowman.
Scott Dubin is here.
He's accused me of something I have to respond to.
Go
I
ahead,
don't stand with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Petulant child. What a little bitch. Complaining at a debate that people are talking against him. How dare they? My God.
I stand with the hostage families. Those people should have their hostages returned. That's an essential part of what has to happen in the
Okay.
We
Scott
call for
Dubin,
the
your
hostages
question.
to be returned multiple times.
Let's listen to our question from Scott Dubin.
We said that already.
No, not when you call for the
They even tweeted.
Stop lying, man.
No, you're the one that's lying, dude. You set a record for lying.
Scott
Wow.
Dubin has been patiently waiting to get his question in. Go ahead.
Thank you. As a college student at NYU, I watched the Twin Towers come down from my dorm room window. Deeply impacted me. Mr. Bowman, you recently voted against H.R. 6408, a bill that revokes the tax-exempt status of entities which directly fund terrorism. As a congressional representative from New York, how can you defend voting against a bill that would slow money to terrorists?
Okay, Congressman Bowman.
Well, that bill conflates human rights organizations like UNRWA with Hamas and terrorism, which is not true.
UNRWA is
go Yak UNRWA go.
UNRWA is basically a front for terrorism, and Israel has ceased all its ties with UNRWA for a reason.
Warren
there are multiple
volunteers,
they support multiple members of UNRWA working hand in hand with Hamas. And he calls it a human rights organization. Shame on you, Bowman.
Conflates innocent Palestinians with Hamas, which is not true, which I do not support. So those were components of the bill that were wrong, which I do not support, and that's why I voted against that bill. Of course, I'm not supporting terrorism or funding of terrorism, even though my opponent said I take money from Hamas, which is a despicable, deplorable thing to say.
Your 30 seconds, County Executive.
I never said Hamas. I said Hamas supporters.
Man, come on.
And they want to, yeah, man, come on yourself. Yes. You want to represent a false narrative.
I need to relive this moment. I live for this dem on dem stuff. This just oh my God, chef's kiss on this.
I'm not supporting terrorism or funding of terrorism, even though my opponent said I take money from Hamas, which is a despicable, deplorable thing to say.
Your 30 seconds, County Executive.
I never said Hamas. I said Hamas supporters.
Man, come on.
And they want to, yeah, man, come on yourself. Yes. You want to represent a false narrative. Here's the bottom line. It was a bad no vote. The vast majority of members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans, understood what that bill did, but Jamal and the squad voted no, just like they voted no on issue after issue after issue. They sit outside the mainstream of both Republicans and Democrats who want to see us deal with terrorism in a reasonable way. That bill was the right bill to vote yes on. Okay. He voted no, consistent with this philosophy.
Okay, such a lively and animated conversation so far, but believe it or not, gentlemen, it is time for closing arguments. The order agreed to ahead of time by both of our candidates. George Latimer, you're up first, and you have 1 minute, sir.
I grew up on the south side of Mount Vernon. My mom and dad had to quit school during the Depression, and they went off. My dad went off to war. My mother went off to a factory, and that's how they worked their blue-collar life. They were able to give my sister and myself a better chance at life. We worked hard to get ahead, and that story is an American story. I have neighbors who are African-American who have the same story. I have friends who are white. I have friends who are Latino, same story. We have to view the needs of this county and the county of the Bronx together as a universal story, not picking out pieces to try to speak to a base of voters to try to animate them. I go to Washington if you send me. And I'll work as hard as I did when you sent me to Albany, as hard as I have done as a county executive. Whatever he's tried to misrepresent the record, you know the record that we've had in Westchester County. It's an exemplary record. It's not perfect, but that's the kind of congressman I'm going to be. I'm not worried about who gives me donations. I'm worried about whether or not I can achieve anything in a system that's broken.
Thank you, Congressman. You have the same amount of time, 1 minute.
My opponent is in the pocket and bought and paid for by AIPAC, the largest recipient of AIPAC money in the country, okay? AIPAC is funded by the same Republicans who supported insurrectionists, the same Republicans who are against voting rights, who are against reproductive rights. We don't take money.
This is not an effective response at all. Latimer was being positive and talking about his record. Bowman's going on the attack and being defensive. This is not a good look for him at all, Russ.
He should lose. He should lose.
He's spewing like left-wing pornography.
Yes, but left-wing pornography gets votes from Democrats nowadays, especially in the People's Republic of New York. Just saying.
Money from special interests because we represent the working class people of the district, particularly those most marginalized, neglected, and left behind by my opponent and many others who have been in office for far too long. Okay. Why do black and I'm looking at the time. I got more time. No,
you don't, sir.
Okay.
Are these not close? Out of time. The hour is complete. I apologize.
Whoa.
I've got to wrap up.
Look it up,
gentlemen. I've got to wrap up the show. Thank you all so much for joining us at home and for sending.
All right, we made it through, guys. We pushed through.
Shit.
We made it through the rain. I can't believe we did it. Congratulations to everyone for pushing through.
So, Gene, I do have a question.
Russ, go ahead.
So, first question is, why did we just do that?
Because we hate ourselves.
Russ, I don't know if you know the name of the channel anymore. It's called Buffoon of the Week, where he had to mock and laugh at buffoons. And Jamal Bowman once again shows how much of a buffoon he really is here. Don't you agree with that?
Painful.
I was waiting for Latimer to say, I I've served with Marty Golden. And you, sir, are no Marty Golden.
Gene, let's do a round robin. We'll let Bard give his final thought, me, then you.
Sounds good. Bard, final thought here.
People, ladies and
people
gentlemen
of Earth, hear Yak.
Yeah, so people of the jury, you know who to vote for, and if you don't, I'm coming for you.
All right, and as always, fromnews.com, you see it in the description, frumnews.com. Gallo, it's on you now.
All right, I'm going to end with this. So, first of all, racism is fucking dumb. Race politics is dumb. It primarily comes from the left. I hate when the right even dabbles in it. If anybody owes reparations in this country to anyone, it's actually the Democratic Party that owes reparations to African Americans. They are the party of slavery. There has never been a Republican president that served a full term in this country under slavery. The Confederacy were the Democrats. The KKK were the fucking Democrats, right? So the Democrats owe reparations. And I'll leave you with this, Gene. I'm in the cult.
Since we're talking about merch, by the way, I got to talk about my shirt. I'm going to stand up so you guys can see it. There you go. That's what I'm all about. I'm sick and tired of buffoons like Bowman and even on the right, too. I'm sick and tired of them as well. The whole reason, you asked why we watch this, the whole reason why we watch this is to poke fun and mock at buffoons, especially the dem-on-dem buffoonery that we saw in this debate. They're eating their own. This race is going to be a bellwether to see if Donald Trump is going to have a win or a huge win, in my opinion. Because if Jamal Bowman wins this race, it's a signal and a bellwether that all of the rhetoric coming from the far left about supporting pro-Palestine protests and Palestine and Hamas and all of that that's coming from the squad, that means that the Democrats have to pivot to that because that's where their voter base is. If they don't pivot to that, they're going to end up having people stay home from voting or vote for RFK Jr. or other people. That's why we watch this debate, Russ, because this is going to determine whether Trump wins big or really big. Because if Democrats go full progressive, and you should never go full progressive, they're going to end up alienating a lot of the pro-Israel vote of this base. And it's going to make it even easier for Trump to win, especially in a lot of these battleground states who are going to be looking at these progressive states like New York and California and Illinois and seeing what's going on with the summer of love that's going to be incoming. That's my final thought on all this. We made it, boys. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you guys out there who've been watching us live, or if you're watching us on replay, we really appreciate it. Check out the channel as always. Like, share the show with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And I'll be in the comments after this video as well to talk to whoever wants to talk about this. And listen, you heard it from Russ. It's coming back. Behind Enemy Lines will be back. We just got to figure out where and when. It's going to be a hell of a 2024. I'm so fucking psyched now. This is going to be fun. Thank you guys so much.
Trump 24 big league.
All right. The stream is over. Take care. Good night.